It's a pleasure to be here today. So, Dr. Reza just shared a wonderful example from the hardware side. I'd like to share from a consumer perspective what we've been working on and exactly what I think is such a promising future for wearables. So my talk today is data overload or a better life. I think there are 3 steps that we need to take as industry innovators to shift to the Internet of Things and Wearables 2.0. Just a little bit about Lark. This is our mission. Lark interprets the world's real-time passive data to empower people to live simpler, better lives. We are a software company that has been very focused in the interaction of hardware and software. We actually came out with one of the first Bluetooth body sensors that tied to an iPhone app in 2011. And we've since moved on to really focus on what we believe is the core value add to the user, which is personalized health coaching through understanding people through their data. So using a lot of machine learning, using a lot of big data. So we are in a great place of what I consider wearables 1.0. There are some fantastic health tools out there, and they do exactly that. They are tools to help you monitor your well-being so that you can make decisions for yourself on what you actually want to do. But as everyone here prior to me has been saying, there's going to be so much more health data coming. It's going to be an onslaught. And I know as a company here, I can see in 2014, it will be a completely pivotal year as all of these wearables come to market. So now imagine the person of the future. And you have kind of a bionic man, right? You've got all of these sensors on this person, and it's tracking everything in real time. And you've got your ECG, your stress, your pedometer. It's a little bit overwhelming. And I think that if we continue with this trajectory, this is what we'll all be staring at. And this is what we'll be staring at all our lives, because it's all coming in, all this data is coming in. And so there is a huge danger of consumer data overload. If we don't spend more time as industry innovators bringing value to this data, figuring out what we're actually going to help people do to get healthier, this is the future that I think we're headed toward, and I think that we should stop it at all costs. Because it's not our jobs to be our own financial traders. A financial trader has to sit in front of a computer, stare at everything in real time, make tiny little adjustments, and make split-second decisions based on all of this data. Well, we have lives to live as users. I don't think we need to be doing this. So if this is the future we want to avoid, what is the future that could potentially also come about? I think this is a better future, and this is the future that I position to you as the one I think we should be driving toward. So imagine if all of your health data and lifestyle data, information about your life, is sent up to the cloud, where it's stored in a very secure cloud. And then imagine if you each had your assistants looking at all of the pieces of data and figuring out at each moment in time, what is the most important thing to share with you? What is the most important thing that you can do at this moment to become healthier and happier? And I think we all want to become healthier and happier. And the best thing to do is nudge you with the things that I think are most important to actual behavior change. So our company has focused on behavior change with the world's leading experts from Harvard and Stanford. The trick to behavior change is that it has to be small, it has to be simple, it has to be actionable, and it has to be personalized. So there is great promise in the Internet of Things, but I think that we really need to strive toward these experiences that are much more personal. So I think we really are at a crossroads in 2014. We can go down one path and continue as we are doing today, or we can put in place simple things that will help shift us toward what we think, what I think of as Internet of Things 2.0. And today I want to really talk about the 3 steps to building the Internet of Things 2.0. This assistant, this personal assistant in your daily lives can happen if we create a new ecosystem. So I want to share the first step, I think, is a trend that we are seeing. And I think it's a very exciting trend. It's a shift to the cloud. What do I mean by that? Well, I think that right now, as there are more and more devices coming out, each device talks to a phone. And it's a very closed communication, so you have one app per device. And as these come more and more to the market, you're going to start seeing a fragmentation and a closed ecosystem of devices. Now imagine if the cloud then allowed for every single device out there, whether it be a phone, a tablet, a wearable, and all of this data went into the health cloud, where it was available for everyone. And then software developers, using this foundation, this rich foundation of data that was never before possible, creating a highly contextual, highly personalized app ecosystem. These are services that you've never seen before because they're all based on a huge amount of data. And not just the data that 1 or 2 sensors can provide. So what is really needed for this movement from a local system to a cloud open ecosystem? I think that the biggest thing is to send gold data. I say gold data, but what do I mean by gold data? I think really rich data has 4 characteristics. 1, it has to be in real time, because data about your past does not allow you as a person to change because of it. If I know that I did 10,000 steps last week, I can't really change that unless I make a real solid effort to change it this week. I have to remember, I have to do all these things. So if we can get real-time data, then we can give real-time advice. The second characteristic is that it has to happen all the time. If we can get data 24/7, then we can be monitoring data continuously, or our machines will be. We don't have to actually stay up 24/7 to look at our data. The third is that the data needs to be much richer. We've kind of stayed at a 1-number metric, and that for health, or consumer health, which is the field that Lark is in, has been steps. We've kind of gone down the road of steps, 5,000 steps, 6,000 steps. Well, if you can imagine a personal assistant, they don't have much to say to you besides, oh, you hit 10,000 steps today, good job. So it has to be richer. And how do you create richer? You need context. So I'll talk more about that. And the fourth is cheap. It needs to be cheap. And many of you have already mentioned battery life. So how can you change to a place where we can get gold data that is real-time, 24/7, rich, and cheap. So let's go back to Gen 1 products. So I think they're really exciting, don't get me wrong. Gen 1 data dashboards are how we really visualize and use the data products of today, the wearable sensors of today. And you might have heard me before talking about there's way too much data, we need to scale back. That's not what I was saying. I actually think we need to scale up a lot more. So right now, because of certain limitations, we have intermittent, sparse, raw data going to the cloud. And the only thing that we can get out of that is dashboards. Because dashboards are a snapshot of data, they're available. Even if the data is manually uploaded, you can get a snapshot of your historical past. So I would argue that the largest barrier to a movement to a cloud-based open ecosystem has been the batteries. Because as products need to become beautiful, they need to get smaller, and that means that there's much less battery space. So there is a very big tension between the hardware world and the software world right now. Because the hardware world, I used to sell hardware electronics, I'm sure a lot of you guys do. The goal is to sell more units, and to sell more units, you need longer battery life. So as a way of selling more hardware products, the trade-off sometimes becomes sending less data. So how can we really incentivize hardware companies to join in this ecosystem on the cloud? Well, we have to make it really cheap so that then hardware developers think, this is great. If I send my data to the cloud, I can access my data and all of everyone else's data, and I can build richer and richer experiences on my data, therefore opening up the market of who wants my hardware. And so this is a critical problem that we first need to solve. And while the battery life is getting better and better, and I think that's really exciting, the immediate answer is actually not a magic battery. It can happen today, and that's through pre-processing. Imagine if raw data now doesn't actually need to all be pushed through BTLE to the health cloud. And that's really exciting, because instead of pushing raw data, which kills battery, we generate megabytes of data as human beings per minute, per hour. And if we could just cherry pick the most important data that's rich, continuous, and pre-processed and send it to the cloud, then the gold applications, the great applications that sit on top, that are highly personalized and contextualized, are more and more possible. And so we see a rise in a new type of data, which is highly contextual. And we believe that for this trend from localized devices to an open ecosystem, that there needs to be much more pre-processing on the embedded system itself. And you will have seen probably the Apple iPhone, the 5S just announced the Apple M7 chip, which is a chip that does pre-processing. And instead of sending real-time data, it sends, that kills battery. It sends a contextual data stream that's very, very cheap. That's why the Apple 5S does not actually require killing the battery to run its pedometer programs now. So this is what Lark has been working on. Lark has an activity classifier that is very similar to the Apple M7 for the iPhone. It takes raw data on the embedded system and turns it into a contextual stream of data so that applications can use that to develop richer applications. So what is the Lark activity classifier? So it is firmware designed for low-power microcontrollers. It takes 9-axis accelerometer data and turns it into a real-time activity stream. So instead of sending all these quaternions to the cloud and killing the hardware battery life, you instead get really rich contextual human behaviors. I know that I'm walking, now I'm running, now I'm sitting down to eat, now I'm going to play tennis. And if you as software developers could get that data from these amazing little low-power microcontrollers and low-power sensor hubs, imagine the cool apps, the apps that you could develop on top. And I think the opportunity here is huge. The reason why I said 2014 is a pivotal year for the Internet of Things is because I think that there is a huge new class of wearable sensors that is coming to market. And that is actually the phone itself. The phone is a huge wearable sensor. And it hasn't been before. It hasn't been because it's killed the battery life. But now that the low-power sensor hubs in the phones, like the S5, which just got announced, which has a low-power sensor hub, as well as the Apple 5S, you will see a very accelerated growth in the Internet of Things. Because what wearable device do we all have? What wearable sensor do we all have sitting here? It's the phone. And I've heard tons of analyst reports about cool growth rates of the wearable sensors. And this is one that I got, I think from Business Insider. And it says that in 2014, there will be 200 million wearable sensors. I did a quick calculation of the smartphones that already have low-power sensor hubs, and even in 2014, I already took account of 800 million people will be sending their real-time data through low-power sensor hubs and activity classifiers. So this is the beginning. I think that wearable sensors plus phone sensors are going to really create a new consumer health Internet of Things. So the final step is, what do we do with all of this contextual data? What do we do with this gold data? And this is where I think it's the most exciting part of all the innovation that Dr. Reza mentioned. All of you entrepreneurs, companies, we should all be creating value from all of this big data. And this is a little bit about our perspective. Take Sally. Sally's 30-something. She is a little bit, she's a busy professional, but she's a little bit not totally happy with herself. She wants to be a little less stressed. She wants to be more productive, thinner, healthier, fitter. But she always gives up because it's really hard. And I always want to go back to the user because we understand who we are building for, right? It's the user doesn't necessarily need more data. They know they need to walk more. They know they need to eat less. So what can you bring to the user? This is the approach that we've taken. So over the last 4 years, we've worked with the top experts in behavior change in motivation from Harvard, from Stanford, and top domain experts. So an NBA coach, an NFL coach, a nutritionist, a sleep expert. And we've brought them together to create your personal assistant for health and wellness. So instead of data, you get a simple conversation from a friend who just taps you when something is amiss or they want you to know something. It's simple design, but it's deceptively simple because what's powering it is a behavior change engine that takes machine learning and deep learning to take what is most appropriate for you at any given time. This is what we mean by contextual data analysis. And all you need to do is carry your phone and the assistant talks to you. The phone is your sensor. Of course, it also works with other wearable sensors to make the assistant smarter. And you can see a world where, as there are more and more sensors, there need to be more and more layers on top of the data interpreting it for you. So ours learns your patterns to help you get better. And this is just a little example. So we, last week, announced, did a keynote speech with Samsung, and this was for their launch of their Galaxy S5. Not allowed.
So here's Lark installed on the S5, and I can say, Lark, how am I doing? And Lark will answer. Hey, Julia, today is off to a terrific start. This morning's activity was off the charts. Usually, you barely walk 10 minutes before lunch, but today you already walked 27 minutes. And here is the relevant chart for me. Ever since you got to Barcelona, you've been a walking machine. Yes, it's probably because I've been running around since 6 a.m. this morning. How do you feel? Well, my heart's pumping right now, so I'm going to answer energized. You clearly don't need help getting active today. In fact, you're on pace to hit a personal best. Are you interested in going for gold? Well, I think I've got enough on my plate, so not today. Okay, no worries. But since your morning was so hectic, try to make some time for yourself this afternoon.
Thank you. So this was just with one stream of data from their low-power sensor hub. But imagine if we had food data, we had heart rate data, we had galvanic skin sensor data. Your assistants and these contextualized experiences could be smarter and smarter. So, in summary, this is a little bit about what Lark does. We have an activity classifier for phones and wearables. We have a proactive personal assistant for health and wellness. And we have a smart cloud backend. And in conclusion, I really want to urge everyone with the promise that this space holds. I think that the imagination will take us to an amazing new era of highly personalized, highly contextual services. And I think that that's what we all really want. We want to build products that help people. And I think that that is what is the potential of wearables. We can unlock the best versions of ourselves. And all it takes is a little bit of technology and a lot of imagination. So thank you so much. I'm happy to answer any questions.